I was going to bring up the United States because, of course, the Caribbean is America's backyard. I mean, from Cuba, closest
Well, we like
point...
to say neighborhood because they might get the wrong impression with backyard.
All right, I'm sorry. I was using that. Yes, true. Okay, you're in America's neighborhood because at its closest point, it's only 70 kilometers from Cuba to the United States. 7 military U.S. bases are here in the Caribbean. But people are beginning to wonder whether you're looking further east. And we had a question on social media, Prime Minister, which says, I honestly would like to know why we in Barbados are so ingratiated with China. Why are we in so deep with China? So are you swapping one superpower for another?
Well, once again, I regret that the person who asked the question doesn't know our history. In 1977, Barbados established relations with the People's Republic of China. This is 44 years ago. And therefore, to suggest that we are now seeking to ingratiate ourselves with China means that you don't understand where we've come from or what we're doing. Any country that lives in this world today, to exist in this world, ought to have relations with every country. And China is clearly a global power. And for us not to have a relationship with China, even if we didn't have one 47 years ago, would be foolish.
But you've been very complimentary about China. You had a phone conversation with President Xi Jinping recently. You said this is all about strengthening the relationship with China. In 2019, the government signed up to the BRI, the big infrastructure projects and so on. And some people are suspicious. They think that China wants to buy the family silver.
Well, let's put it this way. I've also been very complimentary of the Americans and the British and the Canadians, so that for me not to be complimentary of China seems unusual. And similarly, for persons who believe that because we want to be friendly with China means that we are a pawn, tells us what they think about us in the first place. Because we are capable of being, as our first Prime Minister said, friends of all and satellites of none.
But it's not just Barbados that's moving closer to China, it's the whole of the Caribbean. I mean,
it's the whole
investment
world.
from China has gone up many folds.
But so is the whole world. If I look correctly, I think the Chinese hold a large percentage of assets within the United States of America and a large amount of their treasuries as well. So for you to focus on the Caribbean or Africa with China without recognizing the role that China is playing in Europe or in the North Atlantic countries is a bit disingenuous and really reflects more that we are seen as pawns, regrettably, rather than countries with equal capacity to determine our destiny and to be part and parcel of that global conversation to fight the global issues of the day like climate and the pandemic.
All right, well, that's put me in my place, hasn't it?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Not at all, my dear.
That's all right, thank you. We'll go to our next question. Provide me with a bit of relief. Thank you. Kevon Henry, your question, please.
Yes. Prime Minister, you've added your voice to the global discussion on reparations. We could agree that reparations are due to African descendants and to their nation states. How do you view what mechanisms should be used in handling the issue of reparations?
Well, let us start from the perspective that reparations for us is not a Barbadian issue alone. This is a CARICOM issue, and there's a 10-point CARICOM plan. Barbados, and I at this moment happen to be the Prime Minister, has lead responsibility for reparations in CARICOM. I'm not surprised because we were that country where the modern expression of racism took form, regrettably, in the 17th century and in the 18th century.
Because Barbados was the first British slave society.
And a lot of the laws and a lot of the iniquitous practices came out of in here. And that's why you've heard me say that while our Parliament has had unbroken service, that we have both seen it as an instrument of oppression, but it is now a tool of empowerment in the last 80 or so years. So we start from that perspective. Reparations for us is a development issue, and it is one we believe whose time has come. 20 years ago, when we first started having this discussion, people would laugh us out of the room. When emancipation came, there was a compensation of slave owners of £20 million. We ask ourselves today, when these countries became independent, what was the development compact given to us? We got no development compact to help us with housing or education or health, but all of the wealth that was extracted from these countries for centuries were used to build the monumental edifices that we see all across Europe and North America.
When the British were asked for compensation, like the slave owners were. They were told, your freedom is your compensation.
And that once
How about
that once again is an offhand comment that causes us to feel that you think we're pawns and not human beings. And we say simply, look, we're not seeking to do anything that is unusual, but we believe that our people have a right to development. And therefore we feel that there is need for a conversation, particularly for the developing countries of the world who were made victims for centuries of the extraction of wealth on a continuous basis.